Dr. Cinema here, continuing on with Star Trek month. Now, the last video I did, I talked about how the 2009 film was a pretty good continuation slash reboot of the franchise. But now, it's time we actually go back to the starting point of the franchise, the original series, from the 1960s. Now, the original Star Trek show created by Gene Roddenberry, lasted for about 3 seasons. Season 1 having about 30 episodes, Season 2 having about 26, and Season 3 having 24. Each episode being somewhere around 50 minutes long. Yeah, I was surprised by that. A 50-minute long per episode show from the 1960s was Star Trek. I'm not sure if that was normal for the time, but I was certainly surprised when I found that out. And to be honest, I haven't even completed season 1 yet, but I have seen a good number of Star Trek episodes to have a good idea of how to analyze this series. For those of you who may be a little bit fuzzy, Star Trek is around the central premise of to boldly go where no man has gone before, to explore new worlds and to make new discoveries. And the show focuses on the crew of a starship known as the USS Enterprise. And the starship, it belongs to what is known as the Federation of Planets, a group of planets in a alliance of sorts, sort of like either like, don't want to say like the United States, but like the EU in a sort of way. I'm not quite sure exactly how the Federation works. I don't have expert knowledge on the franchise. But the Federation is, of course, a whole bunch of planets, including Earth and the planet Vulcan, or the Vulcan homeworld. I'm not sure if it has an official name or not. All working together for peaceful goals. Alright, that's pretty noble and good. So, what about the actual crew of the USS Enterprise? Well, for starters, we have Captain James T. Kirk. I don't want to get too much into this character because I want to talk about him more in a future video where I can go more in depth with him. But here's what I can say. Captain James Kirk, he is a bit of a womanizer, to put it mildly. And he can be described as a bit of a stubborn brute. He does get in a lot of fights. And again, he is pretty stubborn from time to time. But when he's in the heat of a situation, he does know what the right thing is, and he does it. So, for all of his faults, he is a good leader. So, props to him. Other people include Spock, the science officer, if I'm correct. Spock is half human, half Vulcan, an alien species that is known for focusing more on logic than emotions. And he does bring some good performances to the show, and they can be a little funny in some of the more funnier episodes. You have the medical, what's the official term? The medical chief. He's the main doctor of the USS Enterprise. McCoy, James McCoy? No, it can't be James McCoy. Dr. McCoy, aka Bones. And he's a bit of a slightly crabby personality. And he and Spock can have some good banter from time to time. And both of these two are both also good friends with Captain Kirk. You also have Uhura. Is that how you say her name? She's the communications person on the ship. You've got 2 pilots, Chekhov, the Russian guy, and Sulu. And then in terms of the engine area of the ship, you have Scotty. Hence the phrase, beam me up, Scotty. I don't know why I did that. And of course, there are other several supporting characters on the show, but those are mainly the main ones. Sorry if I somehow left out someone else that was pretty big. But these are pretty good characters and they're enjoyable, and they have distinct personalities. And the show, it's due to the fact that this is the 60s with some questionable special effects, it's really more focused on ideas and concepts. And that way, it's very hard sci fi, focusing more on philosophical discussions. And while there is definitely some action between our crew and some antagonists on the show, it is really more focused on communication, diplomacy, and exploring ideas that can be misconstrued, can have misconceptions about them. This includes gender, race, all sorts of different stuff, especially applying to the scientific field. And so this could turn off some people, especially those that are more inclined to like Star Wars or Harry Potter. But if you go in knowing what it's going to be about and pay attention, it's actually really fun. Of course, I haven't really seen much of the original show lately, but that's partly because I've been so busy with school and such. Hopefully, I can get back into watching the original show if I have the time. Anyway, the show does have its funny bits that the internet has made infamous. One of my favorite, funnier episodes of the show includes one where a virus starts infecting members of the crew, and then we have Sulu, shirtless, holding a fencing sword, and just going around kind of lunging at people going, "Ha!" It was really random, but I really enjoyed it. Of course, the show can actually be pretty dark at points. One episode that comes to mind is that the Enterprise comes across a planet where a sort of crash happened several years ago, and they found the one survivor. At the time of the crash, he was a young boy, but he's now more of a teenager slash young adult, with not very much human interactions because he was a lone survivor. And they find out he has psychic abilities and starts attacking people on the ship. And at the end of this episode, we find out who has taken care of him since the crash on that alien planet. A species of aliens that, believe it or not, don't have physical bodies at all. They're all psychic beings with no physical bodies and such. It's unique, certainly. And they say that they'll take back the kid and bring aboard their ship. And the kid starts actually freaking out, like, please don't take me. They don't have bodies. They don't know how to touch. They don't know how to love. Please don't let them take me. But then he just disappears. No one actually says a word. They just look uncomfortable and then just try to get back to their positions. It's a really dark and kind of a disturbing note to end an episode on. But this again speaks to that the show can actually really bring up good questions and discussions, which I actually admire the show for. Of course, one of my favorite episodes is called Space Seed, and this is the first introduction of a character that you might know as Khan! Yes, Khan, believe it or not, appeared in one episode in the original Star Trek show before making his grand appearance in Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan theatrical film. And Khan was a genetically modified human from the mid slash late 20th century as part of and was a part of the eugenics war apparently at the time on Earth, where a bunch of genetically modified people made to be superior start taking over countries, attacking each other, causing a really big war on Earth. And so Khan and his people end up entering hibernation on a ship and being sent out into space. Of course, the USS Enterprise comes upon them, and Khan and the other people start learning more about the ship and the time they're in, and they almost successfully take it over. But Kirk manages to stop Khan and his people, and the episode ends with Kirk deciding to basically maroon Khan and his people onto a harsh but very habitable planet. And quoting a famous text, Khan basically says that this is the alternative to being like sent into prison in the Federation facility. So that's the last we see of Khan on the show before he makes his big return in the second theatrical film. This is basically my general experience with the original show. Like I said, I haven't even finished the first season, but all in all, this is good. I mean, I wasn't expecting each episode to be so long, and I wasn't really expecting it to be really that focused on discussions and conversations and all that stuff. But looking back on it now, I should definitely try and go back and at least finish the first season. It is a really legendary show that has gone down as being one of the most famous properties of all time. And if you are all interested, please go check it out. As far as I can tell, most of the episodes are fairly standalone, so there's not really like a huge season-long plot that you have to sit through and try to comprehend. Why would you say that? We don't have the power. Sorry about that. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the original show. Join me back next time where I will be taking two of the theatrical films starring the cast and characters of the original show and putting them up against each other in the face-off special. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, share. Doc of Cinema. See you next time.